Hello, Paritosh. How are you?
Hello, sir.
Hey, good to see you.
I'm also good. सर बाबा ठंड बढ़ गई क्या वो जैकेट वगैरह?
Yeah, it's been yesterday evening. Since yesterday evening, it's quite cold here.
हम्म.
So, I mean, actually, jacket पहना था मैंने सुबह. After that, I was quite lazy to take it off. So, otherwise, it's not that cold right now.
So you are in Kanpur only, or are faculties also working from home?
I am in Kanpur. Just a second. I'll have to take a call. Huh? Just a second.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah. So, Paritosh, I think students have already joined. Many students, I think.
Right now, there are a total of 18 participants. Well, these are basically just the first year students, or the second year students are also part of this?
These are primarily first year students and some PhD students who have joined. So, all students who have taken up this special topics course, they are there. And of course, till last month, we also had the VLFM students who were doing the design course with me. So, they were also joined the previous sessions.
Okay.
So, I think Mrityunjay must have briefed you already. The idea was to expose the students to kind of
Yeah, I've been.
what exactly happens in the design industry, and especially listening from the seniors makes a lot of difference. And for them to know you, for you to know them, all kinds of things, and for me to see all of you. That's the whole idea.
It's good to see you also. Because,
So, for the students, let me introduce Paritosh. Paritosh, actually, he completed his BTech from IIT Kanpur in civil engineering.
no, sir, electrical engineering.
Electrical engineering, okay. All this while I knew you were from civil engineering.
No.
And I don't know how many times I have actually talked about it in different forums. I said, क्या करते हो तुम लोग? Civil engineering से हमारे पास student आते हैं. So, oh my God. Okay, चलो कोई नहीं. Nobody inquired actually. So, anyway, so electrical engineering, and then eventually he joined the MDes program, and he was very keenly interested in animation, and that's where his research problem was also. So, having said that, I will now leave it to Paritosh to talk to his juniors and guide them well.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you for the introduction. Yeah, I'll take over from here. Mm. Let me share my screen. Yeah, everyone is able to see my screen, right?
Yeah, it's visible.
Yes, so let me go on to the presentation directly. So, as you already know, the topic for my presentation today is design in games. And why I'm calling it behind the scene is because uh, gaming is a very fast-paced industry, and there are a lot of things which you actually learn while you are actually involved into this industry. What I mean by this is that when you are actually designing the games, there's a bit of theoretical things which comes into picture, but you have to adapt to a lot of things which are right now going on in the market, and how the whole game industry adapts to it, and how the uh, time management has been done, and what are the different functions which are involved behind making a particular game successful is something which I thought I will share, because this is something which I also grasped once I started working in this particular industry. Before that, there were a little bit of exposure in terms of designing games as part of the academics or as part of the competitions. But once you blend into this industry, lot of new things are exposed to you, and that is something which you won't find anywhere in any books or by any other portal on the web and all. It only happens once you start getting into or start getting hands-on into that particular industry. So that's why I thought let me expose the behind the scenes of this industry a little bit to all of you. Also, I just wanted to point out that in this I won't be covering too much of the technical things or the design theoretical things in terms of what the game design, what are the different concepts and all, because I think that would be very early for the first year students. Uh, as here I will be basically covering a lot of the things from the very top level, so that once you will start learning things into the design in terms of what are the different fundamentals of the design, if you already have this background in your mind that whatever I'm going to present, you will start connecting the dots once you are learning those things. So that's the motive for my presentation today. So my presentation is today divided into a total of three parts. The first one is just looking back how my journey has been so far and how I ended up into the game industry and what I am doing as part of my current role. The second section will be focused on how the game industry or different functions within the game industry makes a game alive, means how it starts from the scratch and it ended up into an actual successful game, and what are the different contributions provided by different functions, and within them functions, what are the different design opportunity for design students. So in terms of, so it's not about UX, it's not it's also going to cover the students who might want to target say visual design or animation. So there are a lot of different opportunity within this industry, and based on your orientation or your focus group, you can actually uh, focus on a particular domain. So and each function has its own role and responsibility, and each function is critical to making a game successful. So it's not that one function is driving the game. Everybody collaboratively drives the game. And third, I will be focusing on my particular function. So out of all the function, I am part of the UX function, which we here calls as the experience design function. And so how it is different from the regular conventional UX design industry outside the games. So and what actually matters within the in order to design a well-designed user experience into a particular game. What are the aspects of the UX design which matters over there? Here, I'm not talking about the principles. I'm just talking about the focus areas. That's what I will be covering. And also, over my talk in the past few years, once I started involving into the game industry, and a lot of people start inquiring me about means what does a UX designer do in a game? So there are a lot of common dilemmas which are right now existing in the industry about UX in games. So I will try to answer a few of those, and I will end my session with a short assignment. Uh, which you don't have to do at this moment, which you can do maybe at any point of time while you are studying design at design program, whenever you feel comfortable. Like that assignment will give you a little bit of exposure to how the game design works. Just a real hands-on experience of how game design works. Yeah. So the first section is looking back. So how I get into the field of gaming. So my journey started from 2004. So I joined IIT Kanpur as a BTech student. So I completed my graduation in electrical engineering in 2008. Then I went ahead and joined IBM Software Labs as a software developer. I worked over there for 3 years. And then while in the last year, appeared for the seed, cracked it, and then ended up in the MDES program, uh, which was a completely new domain and a new start for me. But it was a good jump for me in the terms that that was the point where I was thinking of taking a risk in terms of switching my hobbies and a profession. So it doesn't mean that I stopped doing my development or didn't like the development work, but now the roles are switched. Like previously, also I was involved in the like the fine arts clubs while I was in BTech, and I was doing all of the like design, freelance design work, and as well as the some of the artwork. But those were part of my hobby work or the side tracks work. And so I prefer to do the MDES because I wanted to jump from uh, hobby to profession in this particular. I want to try out how things are over there. Like Satyaki sir has pointed out, when I joined MDES, my I came with a very preconceived mind that I wanted to focus on animation, but there was a good thing about MDES that it provides a lot of flexibility, and that worked out really well for me. I'll explain it in the further slides a little bit. So I graduated again from IT Kanpur in 2013, and I joined Samsung R&D. Over there, I worked for 1.5 years, and then I took a break. I wanted to finish some of my research papers and all, and wanted to contribute and explore a little bit of the academic design work. So for that, I took a break and worked on and published two of the papers in during the duration of 2015 and 16. Once I was done by that, then I again jumped back into the industry, and that time, luckily, I got into Zynga. I was not sure whether it's the right industry for me or not, so I wanted to give it a shot. But ultimately, in the end, I realized that it's the best place for me personally. So right now, I am here and happily working over. So yeah, when I was talking about my exposure to design while I was in the design program, there were some good things which the design program provided. And I think in the previous talks, a lot of other seniors have also pointed out the same. It is that design program gives you a good amount of flexibility, and that is something you should use for your advantage. Because there are a lot of questions in the mind of a lot of students when they get into the campus, is that should they focus on one thing, uh, or like I also entered over there with a focus just that I have to focus on animation, and I'm not sure, I was not even sure about what the other things are in design. And similarly, some students comes with lot of unfocused mind, like uh, they are not sure, okay, they learn it over there, but now what to do? So there are no right and wrongs in the approaches. Both things can work out really. Only thing is that how do you prioritize your things, and also whether you should focus on reading a lot of theory, a lot of concepts, or you should start in more of the hands-on, or there should be somebody to guide you what to do, or you should take your own decision. A lot of open questions are over there. So my bit of advice would be, as per my journey, is that use these 2 years and this flexibility provided by design to do extreme bit of learning. Be open to learn, be open to adapt. That means even if there's something or some course, like for me, filmmaking was a new thing which I got exposed while over there, and it stick to me. It still stick to me, and I use a lot of things from the learnings which I did at part of those courses. I'll also brief a little bit of it while I will explain the game design. So That's what
So, Paritosh, after your talk, I'll take a Viva on filmmaking.
sorry.
I'll take a Viva on filmmaking. I'll ask you questions on continuity after this.
Okay. Yeah. So that's my advice. So be open to learn, be open to adapt. There's no rights and wrongs, and design program gives you enough flexibility. Use these 2 years to learn, and eventually things will work out. Yeah, so now coming back to before actually getting into the full-fledged game industry when I joined Zynga, did I get any exposure of games? Yeah, so my answer is yes. I got exposure of games a little bit through some of the competitions and some of the project works, and but that was very at a very like minimal level, means though we were doing as a quick assignments or the quick brainstorming kind of project. So this was the one of the competition which was floated by Samsung, and we as a team provided a concept and the idea for the TV app. So they were they were launching their TV app store, and they wanted to build a lot of gaming apps, not gaming apps, but in general the TV apps. And we thought that a game should be a good addition to it. And we provided the concept, and we ended up winning the first prize for it. And that's how actually I landed up getting the internship also into Samsung, and eventually the job offer. And that's how I joined Samsung at the end of my course. The next year also they floated the similar competition, but this time they uh, asked us to actually develop the app. In the first competition, it was just about the concept, but in the second one, it was more about uh, the whole working prototype, not just the prototype, but actually working in Flash. That gave so this particular thing was interesting for us because that gave us a real experience how you have to do a lot of trade-off when you go from concept to the technical full-fledged thing. Uh, so this also we give it a shot, and yeah, we ended up into the 20 best apps, and yeah, so that was also a good exposure towards game development as such. And the third one was this. And this was a project which I did as part of the academic research, where I took 1 year gap in between after Samsung and before joining Zynga. So here it was a lot of visual heavy thing. It was actually we were exploring the art style of bananas foreign toys, and how can we utilize the digital format of those toys to create a gameplay for kids. So these are a little bit of game exposure for me in bits and pieces. But the real exposure came when I actually joined Zynga, and that was a completely big shift in terms of how the game works. And that was a big eye opener for me in that direction, because previously we thought that okay, games are just a concept should be strong and everything will eventually fall into the place, but that's not the case. So right now at Zynga, I'm working as the senior experience designer, and I am leading and managing the experience design team in the casino match division in India office. So what I mean by casino matches, so there are different genres of games. So if you may want to read about it, you can read it later. But yeah, so there are invest and express games, and there are casino slot games, and there are match three games. The example of match three game you can associate with is the Candy Crush, where you actually match three candies and things starts making up. So in this particular division, we focus on slots and the match three games. So two match three games which are under me right now are the Wonka World of Candy and the Wizard of Oz Magic Match. And the two slot games are Willy Wonka slots and the Black Diamond Casino slots. So this is the portfolio which we are covering right now as part of the Casino Match India division. And I'm leading the UX team in all the four games. So we are a team of total 7 members right now. But apart from this, there are other divisions within the Zynga India as well, like the Farmville division and the CSR games, which are the different genres of the game, and they have their own dedicated teams for the UX. Yeah, and one more thing is that so right now, since these are the games which are already been built and have been live for some time. So right now, what we focus on is on the game sustainability, which we in terms of the gaming industry language we call live ops. That means that at a regular interval on the quarterly basis, we have to target particular features which we have to keep pushing into the game in order to keep our players engaged. Otherwise, they will drop off. So Zynga mainly deals with the in the casual gaming in sector where and majorly into the mobile domain. So here the attention span of the players is very short. Means if there's not a content available for the player for even a week or even for a few weeks, they will drop off and start looking for other games. So that's what I meant by game sustainability. That how can you keep the game's health up to date in terms of pushing out the fresh content, giving something new to the game and the players so that they will keep engaged and start and keep investing into your game. Yeah, so like I was saying, so we have to keep pushing content and how we keep making that game alive and keep it function for a longer period of time comes from the contribution of different functions which works together. And within that function, I will be covering what are the different design opportunities for the design students. So they are the total of the functions which build up a game team. So first one is like mentioned here is the product management team, which basically focus on the vision of the game. Vision means for maybe, so right now we are ending 2020 and we have to set up the vision for 2021. What should we focus for this particular game? And all those insights come from the past performance of the game. How did the game perform in 2020? Which things worked, which thing didn't work, and accordingly what should be the focus and targets for the upcoming years, and then they break it down in terms of the quarters also, like in each quarter what should be the focus. So that's the role of the product management, to keep study the data, keep this study the health of the game, and accordingly keep setting up the visions for the upcoming orders. Then there's a production team, which I didn't see in any other industry apart from films. So here also they keep track of the timelines and the roadmaps because that is also critical. Even a delay of a week in ramping a feature can lead to a lot of revenue loss. Uh, so that's why there are a dedicated team for production who keep a checklist for what are the timelines, what are the roadmaps. And then there's a tech art team which takes care of the technical integration of the particular platform. Some the older games are on Flash. The most of the recent games are on the Unity, and there were a platform called Coco Studios as well, which was being used in some of the older games. So how the concept of the art or the how the whole flow which we design gets integrated into the actual product. So they take care of all the art integration of that, and then the engineering team takes care of putting everything together and developing a game on the supported platform. Finally, the testing team which ensure that the all the quality standards are maintained so that they so that it matches up the industry standards. And along with that, we also work with sometimes with the external teams, like we have art vendors as well. Something which if there's a lot of bulk requirement of the art, we only outsources to the outside vendors. Also, the games which are franchisee based, like the Willy Wonka or the Harry Potter, since those are the franchises of Warner Brothers, we work with the Warner Brothers as well to get the approval, because whatever content we are pushing, whatever feature we are pushing to the game, the fictions around that, the gameplay around that has to be approved by the Warner Brothers so that it's not deviating from the actual fiction of the movie or the characters persona. And that's why the timeline and the production team also comes into picture, that they take care of all the art so that it's not impacting the plan of the game. Within that, there are functions which are specific to design. The first one is the one which I am part of, which is the experience design function. Apart from that, there is a game design function. I'll explain it in the upcoming slides how they are different from experience design or the UX design function. And then there's a dedicated art team and the animation and the VFX team over here. So these are the functions where actually design students, according to uh, their interest, they can actually target to explore further. So the art team, they are responsible for creating the art concepts and the different visual style for the game. So even though we design and we collaborate with them, but they own the ownership of of making sure that we are not deviating from the visual style, or the concepts which are being made are properly signed off or not. So like the example on the left side, this is a same panel which has been designed to three different art styles. And this was the theme which we introduced as part of one of the features. So this which has been granted to the player as a reward, and they can actually theme their game accordingly. So the theme should fit on the game panels properly, all those things and the concepts. And the right one is the Halloween theme, which has been recently introduced to the game. And also the bottom one is the art. So this is a feature which we designed, but on top of it, how the art should be and how that art fits up with the fiction, and it fits up with the existing visual style of the game. That's all the responsibility of the art team, what they explore. Then on top of the art, a game without animation or VFX looks like a dead game. So they have a critical role in making the game alive, in terms of player feels, if there's a rewarding moment, are they feeling a rewarding moment or not? If there are transitions, are they smooth enough? If there's a necessity of a visual effects, or if there's a narration or a story going on. So how everything is bundled together. So giving the movement to the game, giving the effect to the game is the roles and responsibility of the animation and VFX team. And that actually is like the final polish to whatever we are building. Yeah, now coming on to the game design. So how the game design is different from the UX or the experience design function, which I am part of it, is that they have the responsibility of things like developing the narration around it. So if we are pushing a new feature into the game, what is the fiction around it? Around that particular feature. So we can't, so all those things comes under their bucket, like building up the narration, or if they're introducing any core loop into the game, uh, those things or the systems which are existing, or if there's a level, like in the Candy Crush, there are a lot of levels you keep playing, but each level is different. But so how much should be the complexity of the level? How will the one level will be different from the other level? Although the core systems, core loops, and the tuning of those and the maths around that is taken care by the game design team. Uh, but then on top of it, how it will be surfaced and how it will be exposed to the player, that's something which falls in our bucket. So if suppose we have to introduce a new core loop into, or a new mechanic into a game, then they will propose, okay, this mechanic is working, this mechanic is working based on these kind of the reads, we should invest on this, but how, and then we should introduce this kind of feature into the game. But how this particular feature will be surfaced to the player within the game, because there are multiple ways to surface a particular thing. So all those responsibilities come into the part of the experience design, because because we have to design the experience of the player, how they will be experiencing that particular new thing which has been introduced into the game. So this is like the divide in the responsibility between the game design team and the experience design team. Uh, Now I will just touch upon some critical factors which are crucial when you are working into game industry. One is time management. Like I said, game industry is a very fast-paced industry. Here, every second is like matters a lot. Means if you are delayed, you are not able to ramp a feature, not able to release a feature into the game. If suppose, so we have a Christmas coming up. So if the Christmas, whatever feature we are designing, so there are a lot of features which are getting designed for the Christmas theme. But if we fail to hit the 25 December window, then all those features go into waste. So that's why time management becomes a critical part of it. And the efficiency over here is calculated in terms of whatever the quality we are delivering, but along with the quality, how much costing. Costing means how much of the time you are consuming to deliver that particular quality, and what is the target we have set it up. So are we hitting the target or not? If you are delivering a very huge quality, but you are delaying it by 1 month, then it's not called an efficiency over here. And means how the lot of different features in a tight packed windows are actually successfully delivered is by a common collaborative approach. So here nobody works in silo. Means if you are working in silo, you will sure short miss your deadline. So you will have to keep mingling with all the different functions. You have to keep updating and keep collaborating with other to fast pace the work. So also each function has its own core responsibility, and they give you a perspective from their point of view. Like a PM uh, team will tell you, okay, in terms of revenue, how this particular thing works, and which might not be an insight which you already be knowing. So whenever you're taking your decisions, instead of like starting from designing a feature and ending up designing and then getting their feedback, it will be very late. So that's why before jumping into the final thing, it's better to keep taking the feedbacks on a regular intervals. So that's where the collaborative approach comes into the picture. And yeah, you have to understand your stakeholders. And stakeholders here, I mean, is the all the other functions in order to understand your players. So like I mentioned, we as the user experience designers, we know our players from the experience point of view. Okay, we know that this is the interaction pattern into the game, which the player is habitual of. And if you break that particular behavior, it is going to spoil the experience. But in terms of revenue or in terms of the engagement, what are the players liking? What are they not liking? Those are the insights you might be getting from the other functions. So even if you don't get a regular opportunity to interact with the players directly, but if you understand your stakeholders well, you are actually understanding your players well. So yeah, now I'll focus specifically on my function, which is the UX in games. And why I'm mentioning here is the X factor is because there are a lot of things which are different than the conventional UX, which approaches in the other industry. Like, so in Samsung, I was also working over there as part of the UX team, and things were very different over there. And what are the main things which I can collate while working here, and all the different approaches which have been taken here, which distinguish the working of a UX designer in games compared to UX designer in a conventional UX industry. So UX in design is not very old. It's relatively new compared to UX in other industry. So if I'll give you the idea of how the things were 5 years back, it was actually UX designer were mainly working as the UX artist under the art directors. But now the things have changed because uh, more of the UX designers started joining the gaming industry, and they started contributing much more than just as a UX UI artist. And everybody realized their importance and realized their value. That's why now it's been breaked out as a different independent function. And our core responsibility now become as part of a collaborator between different functions in terms of, so UX becomes like a core collaborator between the art or the game designers or the development team. So that's why our roles are very well defined now compared to how it was 5 years back, because at time nobody wants to take a risk of, or might not be seeing a value of adding a UX designer uh, into a gaming system. So yeah, giving you a little bit of things how when you are designing experience for a game, how the approach sometime has to be calculated in a different manner is by comparing a user versus a player. So here our users are actually our players, and a player behavior might not be the same compared to how we generally build up the heuristic principles for our user experience, or the user, what's good for a user or what's not good for a user, and what's the affordability, or whether they are getting good delighted experience or not. So we have to take a very calculative call or a trade-off call between whether a player needs it or they need it because they are hooked into it. So hook sometimes plays a major role. By hook, I mean that maybe they might not be needing it, but we have introduced into the game, and since they are habitual of again, they adapted to it, and now it's become part of their regular habit. So that's when the second point comes into the picture. So even though something might not be usable, means on the first one you might see, okay, no, this kind of design patterns, it's not very user friendly. We should change it. But should you actually change it or not? Because player might be habitual of it, and the game players are not very prone to changing things because they have built up that habit over a longer span of gameplay. And if you suddenly change that just because it's a better usability, that might not work. So all those kind of trade-offs is something which we have to keep thinking before just thinking or applying the heuristic principles into defining our experience. Also, like sometimes you say, okay, for a player, as part of the delightful experience, we should give this, we should give that, or we should take the player from here and ended up the experience to by a given journey. But if we and if we just see from the delight point of view, we'll never add a friction into that journey, because as part of the user experience principle, there shouldn't be any friction while you are defining a user or player journey. But sometimes the frictions are needed. Sometimes the frictions are needed in the game when you want to push the player to try out more. So those kind of the things are there, which you will only see when you are designing a user experience for a game and not for the other apps. So, and these are something which you will get exposed only when you're working in game industry. The other distinction which I was able to identify or correlate when I shifted from the regular UX industry to the game UX industry is that here things are not built for platform. Things are actually built for the product. What I mean by that is every game is different in the aspect how the user patterns evolve. So one thing or one rule which might be working well in one game might not work in another. So whenever you jump into any new game, you will have to establish the design pattern which has evolved over a period of time by the player, either through their habit or through the content which they have been playing. So there are no set rules. Also, like in the like the example which I just put over here. So the same WhatsApp app, when it's on the Android platform or it's on the iOS platform, both platforms provide their own framework. So from that point of view, you have to stick to their framework to design the experience. And because they are trying to build a uniform experience across different games within one platform, but there's no such framework in games. So that's why each game has to be evaluated separately, and each game has to be designed in a different manner by understanding its own interaction patterns. Now, yeah, coming to how, since there are no set rules, then how will you define what is a good design or what is a bad design? So basically, it's all about context. Like I say, one thing which might be working good in one game might not work that good in other game, or might completely fail into the other game. So just a reference screen. So this is a screen from one of the older game, which is the Farmville. So by seeing this particular screen, I'm sure that first impression will be that there's a lot of clutter. Let's let's simplify it, give a better experience to the player. But should we do it? The answer is no, because if we will try to touch this and try to give a break the habit of the player, it will lead to a lot of impact, and players are actually habitual of it. So that's why what is a good design or the what is a bad design, that is very contextual to what game you are talking about and which target player group you are talking about. Also, what is the target for a particular feature? The UI you are designing for any feature, is the feature target for bringing up more revenue, or is the feature targeted to bring up more engagement? Based on those priorities, the definition of good and bad design keeps changing. Also, in order for you to be capable of identifying what's good and what's bad for the game, one core skill set which is required is the ability to deconstruct. What I mean by this is that when you are looking into any game, are you able to identify any emerging patterns within the player, within the behavior a player is playing your game? And in order to validate, you build. So what we do, we build hypothesis and try to validate through the data whether whatever we are hypothesizing is it actually correct or not. And also, since there are a lot of competition to the game, it's not always that you have to design everything from scratch. You can learn from either the mistakes or the some good things which your competitors are doing. So like in these screens which are pasted over here, so these are two different games which are of the same genre, but their buy pages are designed in completely different manners. So if you have to break it down, you should understand what are the things working in one game versus the other, which is the good design. So those kind of deconstruct is the ability to deconstruct the emerging design patterns is something which becomes very crucial for you to take the final call whether this is something good for your game or this is something which is not good for your game. Then again, like in the previous slide I mentioned that once you will try to identify or start deconstructing, how will you validate it? If you will go ahead and go do a survey or maybe take a direct interview for the players, they might not tell you the truth because sometimes they don't even know the truth because they are behaving in one manner, but when you question them, they might answer you something different. But data is something which never lies. So data is something which you should always use to validate your hypothesis when you are defining your or finalizing your design. So here's one example which will I will try to just give you an idea how data sometimes becomes very critical in terms of the success of a particular feature. So this is the same feature where the bottom one is the version 1 of the feature and the top one is the version 2 of the feature. In the bottom one, if you see, so these are, so this is like a progress. This was like a race feature. So you have to keep doing a lot of things and collect different points and just progress through this progress meter and reach to the finish line. And within that, there was different milestones, which once a player hits a particular milestone, uh, they will get some mini rewards kind of things. So the thing, so what the hypothesis was that once they will hit over there, they will get some reward. They will push for the next one, and then they will eventually push for the third one, and they will be completing the feature more and more. And when we read the data, the one interesting thing which you are able to figure out is most of the drop off means most of the players who stopped playing the game actually dropped off before the first milestone itself. But the players who were actually hitting the first milestone were ending up finishing the feature. So based on that, we build that hypothesis that if so, the player wants to get that rewarding feel much early in much early phase to get engaged to the feature. So in the second iteration, we push the milestone on and try to give them the first milestone much early instead of equally spacing them out, and that led to the success of the feature. So this is one example where sometimes things which are very intuitive might not work, and sometimes the data can give you some critical insight which can make or break the feature. Yeah. So yeah, this was the piece which I was actually referring in the initial part when I was talking about the filmmaking. Gaming industry is also similar to films in a manner that here sometimes you have to break a lot of rules. By rules, I mean that there are a lot of established usability principles or the heuristic analysis principles, which you have to intentionally break. But in order to break the rule, you should know the rule first. Then only you can calculate and take a calculative approach and define whether by breaking this rule, am I getting something positive out or the intended behavior out of it or not. So break the rules, but before that, get the fundamentals right and know when you want to break the rules. So this was just the reference of some of these shots. If you see these shots, so these are not a very well composed shot. If you go by the rule of composing a well defined shot, they doesn't come down into the good composition. But here the intention was not to give a pleasing experience, was to build up the tense moment within the shots. So that's why that rule of a balanced composition was break into creating the desired output. Similarly to the game also, sometimes when you want to intentionally create a friction during the flow, so you should know where to create the friction and whether that is the intended behavior we are targeting or not. Also, yeah, everything is calculated in terms of whatever we are investing, are we getting the enough returns out of it or not? Is the design which you are designing, the time you are investing for coming up with the design, or the number of iterations you are doing for a design, or the process you are following, is it ROI positive or not? What I mean is, why ROI positive is that whatever the output you are targeting to get out of it, is it more than the time or the cost you are investing into it or not? So that is something which is always questioned. And this is a good thing which you should always keep into mind when you are in a very early stage of the design itself. Because once you get into finalizing the design and then you are again starting something, you are actually wasting of time. Also, yeah, as part of the UX, even though we are part of the UX and our core responsibility is to design a good experience for the players, but that is not, like I mentioned here, nothing works in silo, which means it's not like just if you are focusing on UX, you will build a good product. You will have to supplement some time with lot with the knowledge of other functions as well in terms of, so if we define a flow for a particular feature, how will you support it for with a good visual design? So there should be a good amount of collaboration between the art team and the UX team. So also in that manner we sometimes direct them, okay, this is the direction we are thinking about to focus for the visual design for this particular feature. And whenever they are presenting, we should be collaborative enough to give the feedback in terms of whether whatever they are conceptualizing are actually fitting in terms of the usability which we are targeting. Similarly, what are the different transitions? What are the different animations? So if you want the player to feel a good celebratory moment at a particular stage of the feature, whether the animation team is uh, adding that particular element over there or not. So that's when the interdisciplinary approach comes into picture. It's not that we hand over the design and then they have to take over and do and take the complete responsibility. We have to always be in a complete review cycle of till the whole feature is done in order to build a one complete successful product. Similarly, it's always helpful to know the platform knowledge. And so like majority of the games right now on Unity. So if you know the constraints of Unity as a platform, you can foresee a lot of hiccups which you might end up into the design process at a later stage. And you can then save a lot of time over there. Similarly, like the previous example, data interpretation is something we should always use to validate our hypothesis. Yeah, now coming on to some common dilemmas which I have been inquired about a lot. So I'll call them some common misconceptions which are around the gaming industry when you are working as a UX designer. One is that there's a conception that if you are working in game industry, it will lead to a negative impact on your career as a UX designer. By this, a lot of people are concerned that if they enter the gaming industry as a UX designer, they will have to forever stick to gaming as a domain and they won't be able to break out of it. And also, so my take is here that that's completely not true. If you know your own basics, you know you are applying and your basic principles. So whether you're working on a game industry or you whether working anywhere outside, it's the same. The basics are same, the processes are same. Only thing you should know what to apply when. And if you have that kind of mindset, you will never have to worry about which industry you are working on. The other thing is that a lot of people think that uh, if they never worked on the games before, this will be something completely new for them, and they will have to completely start from the scratch and build up their career in game industry as a UX designer. Which again, based on the same argument, not completely true. You will have to learn a lot of new things, but the core basics will be same. Also, a lot of people are actually not clear about that what is the role of a UX designer in game, and they ended up making a conception that here most of the work done by a UX designer is actually a visual design work, which I agree that was a case 5 to 6 years back, but not right now. And I think with the uh, whatever the information I have shared as part of this presentation, this will clarify most of this question. And also, one thing is that if you have to be good in the gaming industry, then you have to be a very hardcore gamer. That is again not true. I personally am also not a very hardcore gamer compared to a lot of other employees in my company. But yeah, if you know your particular things well, and yeah, you keep updated with what's going into the market, it's gonna it's basically what's the things required for your uh, responsibilities. Yeah, so that was all from my side in part of sharing the knowledge about the game industry. And I will end my presentation with one assignment, like I mentioned in the starting. So why I wanted to give this assignment is that uh, whatever I have shared so far might not be that much relatable, but once you will do it, you will start understanding the things. So it's a simple fun assignment, just that you have to pick any mobile game, play or maybe pick any game which you is already playing. First play that particular game as a player, and then analyze what are you actually liking into that game or you're not liking into the game. And then again do the analysis of the same game, but this time do it from as a designer in terms of breaking down that game from the heuristic analysis point of view. Once you are done in both the roles, analyzing the game, then compare your experience and you will be able to identify that there are a lot of disconnects which are there. So this is just the things which I think this might not be the right time to do this assignment, or maybe at the end of uh, once the if the UX courses are done as part of the curriculum, you can try out this thing and you can anytime approach me if you need more information about or you want to discuss anything which you are facing while doing this one. Yes, so thank you very much for all your times. This was all what I wanted to share. I'm
Thanks,
open to
Paritosh. It was quite an informative talk, I must say, and you have very nicely explained the role of the gaming designer in the industry, and also how one should prepare themselves for getting into this industry. It's
yeah.
really nice to see you working in this area also, and I always feel happy when I see that my students are working in places where they at some point wanted to be. So, in some sense, that really gives me personally a lot of pleasure. Um, yeah, so
Yeah, thank you, sir, for
questions.
yeah. Also, why, like I mentioned in the starting, so this was something which I wanted to share because initially I thought I'll give a presentation on the basics of what the game design is, what are the different principles. But then I thought that at this point it might not be that relevant, and better to give them a better insight of how the industry works instead of just overloading with a lot of information which might not be relevant at this moment.
Absolutely, that helps actually. I mean, these are some basic informations which are really very useful. And even the assignment that you have given makes a lot of sense for them to think about it.
So is Jumki ma'am still taking courses over there for the design program?
Pinky ma'am will take next semester, I mean, upcoming semester. This semester, things were slightly haphazard. You know, we
Mm.
never expected this whole semester to go online. And then, anyway, this semester she could not make it, but next semester she will actually come. Next semester and the following semester.
Okay. Yeah, because I think this assignment will make better sense once her course is done.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, there is one question from Nikhilesh Tripathi.
Yeah.
Says,
How does
"Is VFX
VFX?
differs from animation?"
Yeah, so VFX, uh, so animation covers a lot of like in the movement of the characters or defining the whole. So in our game currently, there's a factory building whole thing. So animation covers most of those movements or the characters or the transitions. VFX are like the uh, special movements or the particles or the extra added top layers, which are like I mentioned, it is the final touch up of different screens or the different transitions or the different moments which we want to grant to the player. So it involves a lot of dealing with a lot of particle effects, which generally animators don't take care. So animators generally take care of like basic structuring of the things which needs to be moved. But on top of whatever the extra effects which needs to be added, so all those effects falls into the plate of a VFX designer.
So next question is, since most of the games are free,
Hmm.
how do game developers make money?
Yeah, it's a very good question actually. So yeah, let me tell you the insight of, yeah, so that was something which is a very vast topic to cover, but yeah, I'll give a just briefly touch upon this. So even though games are free, so when I talked about creating the hook into the game, so hook plays a very important role in keeping the player stick to your game, which means whenever you're pushing new content or when you're pushing new features, they are there to play it. And how money is being made is that we are not directly asking them to pay to download the game, but within the game there are a lot of economies. There are some direct economies and there are some indirect economies. Direct economies means you directly pay and purchase something, and something is the indirect economies are that, so with the real money you purchase something, but you are not directly spending them. You are spending other currency, but that currency is linked to that the currency which you are directly eh, buying through the actual money. So that's why it means most of the developers they don't make the games as a purchasable games because that will create the initial friction while downloading itself. So at that time it's free, but if your game is good enough and it is keeping the player hooked to your game, then they will spend inside the game in terms of your in-game currency. So that's how we actually make the money. Also, there another source also that there are a lot of there's a way of earning the money through the ads. So sometimes we grant them some of the rewards for the to the player to by seeing the ads. So that's another source through which the money is being made.
So basically what you're saying is that gaming industry is very low on moral values, is it?
It's not low on moral values. So player comes to the
Yeah.
game to see, we are not pushing the players to come to our game. They are
Yeah.
coming at their own will. But yeah, in so that
Advertisements do bring in some,
yeah, but
right?
that's not a big share. The major share is through in-game economies. But yeah, we get the ad revenue as well.
Yeah.
Also, yeah, like in most some of the apps, the ads are sometimes directly being presented to the game. So those are something which creates unnecessary friction in terms of the user experience and just corrupt the game. So we surface them in a different.
Like for example, Candy Crush.
Mhm.
When you complete a level, you're not able to complete a level, or rather, after every game you play, there's a pause, and if you run a particular ad, then you get certain
Yes, yes.
candies or some.
So yeah, those are that is the better approach of showing the ads because that is user initiated. So other apps which are directly just pushing the ad just to gather money, that will create the bad experience for the player. But yeah, if it's player initiated and we are rewarding them something in return of that, it's a win-win for both of us. So that is the approach we generally take.
In fact, interestingly, this COVID time,
Yeah.
so before this, I used to wonder why do people play Candy Crush. I mean, especially I used to see my mother-in-law and my aunt playing Candy Crush and literally getting into, kind of, I crossed this level and you could not cross this level kind of things. तो मुझे ऐसे ही लगता था. But then I started playing and I seriously started enjoying it. It looks so simple outrightly, but then as you go up, you keep crossing the levels. Very nicely, difficulty levels are introduced in between, which is quite nice actually.
So maybe
But, so there are a lot of these applications which shows these Bikar ke ads, but this Candy Crush thing shows a lot of interesting ads in the sense, these are these. So there's one particular set of advertisements which keeps coming, which actually shows you very new, innovative products in the market.
mm,
No, that really, I was actually playing Candy Crush to look into those products.
Yeah. So ads are also actually coming from a lot of different channels. So there are targeted ads as well as there are some random ads also.
Yeah.
So sometimes, the targeted ads gives us a better revenue also. But for that, we have to take some time players consent
Yeah.
and
I mean, so I was also observing that depending on what kind of people play what kind of games,
all.
if I'm sure companies do think about these things, and if you intelligently push those kind of products or advertisements that could appeal to this particular set of user type, then it
Yeah,
really makes a lot of
that
difference.
all actually happens behind the scene.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure. So Candy Crush, I think most of the housewives play. I
Yeah.
don't know. I was playing and I could see advertisements of robotic jhadu, robotic mops, and all kinds of things coming in. But it was fun to see.
Yeah, so you're actually bang on in able to decode the target audience. That's the actual target audience for that particular set of
Yeah,
things.
I know.
Hello, hello. Yeah, hello, Saji. Hello, Satika. Sorry, I was not able to join initially. uh, I have actually, I, I really admire Paritosh because I wanted to introduce him initially, but somehow, and he has been a really true mentor when I was making films and I was doing your course. So me and Paritosh and Chiropriya Mondal, we used to shoot together many films.
Hey, where is Chiropriya Mandal? He
He is
was.
doing his PhD from IIT Guwahati.
From IIT Guwahati.
Okay, okay, okay.
I had one question. Sorry, sir. Boliye.
Then go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
I had one question for Paritosh. How do you account for ethics in gaming? Because most of the times it has been like the recent publications and research are pointing towards addiction, game addiction, a recent behavioral issue found in most of the children because of COVID. So how do you account for gaming and how do you account?
Don't call it addiction.
Yeah.
The way to call it is hook them into it.
but yeah.
See, in the games majority, so right now the gaming industry is so wide that there are a lot of different variety of games over there for the players to play. So they have more options. So right now it's majorly driven by the players, not by the game developers. So what they want to play is actually in the player's hand.
Okay.
So previously it
Okay.
might not be the case when they were like the console gamings and mobiles were not that popular. At that time, it was like we have been pushing something specific and they have to play exactly that. That time, ethics and morals comes a lot into the picture in terms of that. Okay, they will get exposed. That is the only thing which is available in the market. But now, since players have the choice to switch and what they want to again, there are a lot of multiple genres. Whether you are stick to a slot game, the slot games are actual casino games where we give the actual casino like those slot machines and all. So that is much bigger addiction compared to the Candy Crush addiction. But still, they are not. We are not actually taking the directly the money from them. It's all we make sure that everything which is in our game is basically player initiated.
So, Paritosh, tell me something. It's slightly different from what Mr. Joe was asking, since you mentioned about the slot games and casino type games. So, let's say in Candy Crush itself, between levels, if you, let's say, you are very close to completing a particular level, but you still need about 3-4 chances to complete it, right? So, you have an option which opens up a kind of a slot where you have to play something and then you can win the required chances or whatever it is. Now, as far as the the team is concerned, so is it that there is some kind of an interrelation between two different kinds of teams in the sense slot games and these mesh games that you're talking about? So is it the same team that develops that, or that is picked up from the developers of the slot games?
Yeah, so it is actually an emerging genre. So previously we used to have like very dedicated genres in the games. Like one is invest and express. Like the Farmville games falls into the invest and express, where you invest your time, build something, and express yourself on the field. And
Mhm.
then there was match three games, which were like you match things, candies, and you just keep progressing. So those are very individual genres. But during the recent time, from the last 2-3 years, lot of mashup genres started coming up, where people started merging two genres. They keep one genre at the core. So in the example which you have been mentioning right now, so the core is still the match 3 genre, but on top of that, they have introduced a slide feature with these slots. It's been done by the same team, so it's not like they are adding one game into the other. It's just a mashup they are trying, or they might be experimenting. A lot of time we experiment with the new addition of the genre within the, because player, like I mentioned, player keep wanting something new, but what they want, even they don't know. So they introduce something, take a read, then take a call whether it's working or not, and then further whether it's the right choice to introduce that kind of gameplay within the core gameplay or not. Those kind of decisions are being made. But yeah, those are actually built by the same developer. It's not like that these are two different games and they are merging.
Okay. So, chalo, Mrityunjay.
Yes, sir.
So good to see Paritosh working in the gaming industry. That gave me a good excuse actually. See, whenever I am playing Candy Crush or something or the other these days, so ma'am keeps coming and telling me that, yeah, you're getting hooked up or whatever, addicted to this and all that. So I'm going to say, no, I'm going to send some positive feedback to Paritosh.
Yes,
And we
trying out a new feature which has been introduced, and Paritosh is wanting our feedback on that particular feature.
yeah. वैसा ही करेंगे, चल, ठीक है. Chalo then, it was really nice seeing you, Paritosh, and stay in touch. So, Mrityunjay, when is the next talk? At 6, right?
Yes, sir. 6 to 7 by Prachi Jain. Should be coming. Yeah.
Okay. So you seem to be quite exhausted, Mrityunjay.
Yes, sir. Actually, I'm here in Patna and wo Chhath ka puja chal raha tha, so I went nearby to the neighbor's house and helped them. So that's how.
Paritosh कैसा PhD स्टूडेंट है? ये PhD करने के लिए बोला यहाँ काम नहीं हो पा रहा है, मैं घर जा रहा हूँ. कभी बोलता है शादी में हूँ इसीलिए एग्जॉस्टेड हूँ, कभी बोलता हूँ छठ का पूजा हो रहा है इसीलिए, उस दिन बोला किसी का बर्थडे इसीलिए. काम भी कर ले मृत्युंजय, खत्म कर. चल मिलते हैं बाद में. टेक केयर.
Sure. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Bye, Paritosh. Bye.
Bye. And thank you, sir.